Okay, I've seen all of the messages. You've been asking, when am I going to do another YouTube video from a sentencing hearing? To be transparent, no one has actually asked, but I'm going to do one anyway because today's a great day. Great day because the sentencing day, even if someone is going to prison, is always better than the guilty plea, because the guilty plea, you're like, what's next? How long am I going to get? So today we get clarity, even if prison is part of the sanction. For some background, our client called us 2 years ago after some agents from the IRS showed up to question him about some tax issues. From there, he did what all of you should do. You don't wait, you don't stall, you don't think, hey, I'm gonna just kind of sit back and chill for a while and let them arrest me at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to mitigate and prepare. From there, he went to YouTube, which many of you do, began to watch some videos and called me and said, I'm in some trouble, not exactly sure what to do next, though I know I need a lawyer, but I frankly have never hired a lawyer before, at least on the criminal side. And I have no idea how to vet or hire a lawyer. I live in Orange County, I have a family. Let me be very clear, I made bad decisions, I did it. Whatever I can do to try to get the best outcome, I will. From there, I immediately referred him to one of the best lawyers I know in Orange County. Her name is Diane Bass. I'm hoping Diane can contribute to this video before or after the sentencing. Now, before he hired Diane, what I suggested he do was allow our team to fully interview him and draft the whole life story of his life, which is a remarkable story. Coming to this country more than 40 years ago. When he came here, he was homeless, he had no money, he worked, put himself through school. It's a remarkable story that doesn't change. He made some bad choices, but he's really led a remarkable life. So when he hired Diane, he provided her this well-written, thorough narrative, which enabled Diane, the lawyer, to learn more about him in his own words. So we frequently speak about the value of understanding the stakeholders, the federal prosecutor, the judge, a probation officer, a warden, whomever. But a criminal defense attorney is a stakeholder because they're going to be advocating on your behalf to try to negotiate the best deal. And Diane will do a beautiful job articulating to Judge Carter today why our clients worthy of leniency. But never forget, your lawyer is a stakeholder. Part of the reason so many defendants work poorly with their lawyer is the lawyer doesn't fully understand the story. Part of the reason am I looking to the right spot? I should know by now. I've only been doing this 14 years. Part of the reason so many defendants are frustrated with their plea agreement and that I don't agree with it. Well, did your lawyer fully understand the plea, and was the lawyer in a position to truly advocate for you? So a beautiful part of our client taking action so early, and the reason he had as good a plea as you will ever read, is because he fully articulated what happened, why, when, what he learned, the pressures, the opportunities, his role, which gave Diane an opportunity to use her skill set as a terrific lawyer to negotiate with the U.S. attorney. It is a tax case. The guidelines in the case, as I recall, were nearly tripped on the grass here. We're more than 2 years in federal prison. Probation has come in with a recommendation that still includes prison, but less than the 2 years. And again, regardless of the outcome, it's going to be great today that he has clarity. I'm going to head up to the sentencing hearing, report back afterwards. We're heading up to the sentencing in a moment. As promised, one of my favorite lawyers, Diane Bass. Diane, how do you feel heading up to the sentencing hearing?
I am optimistic that it will go well. We have a tough judge, but we also have an extraordinary recommendation by probation. My client has paid restitution. He has lived an incredible life up until this moment in time. He's expressed remorse, and I think it's going to go really well. We'll see.
Quickly before we go up, I mentioned in the video that I'll piece together here that from the beginning our client was open, he was honest. I have a sense that you two worked really well together. Doesn't that make it easier for you to advocate for him if you know everything?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, he was completely honest with me. He told me everything, and it was great working with him. He's been a pleasure to work with.
We're going to report back after the sentencing. All right, that's a wrap on the sentencing. As a reminder, the guidelines were 30 to 37 months before acceptance. So realistically, he could have expected, I think, at least a couple of years on the inside. And walk us through the sentencing, Diane.
So ultimately, the judge was going to give him a year and a day, which means that he would have gotten good time credits on a year. If he just got a year, he would have done the entire year. And the judge was just hell-bent on giving him a custodial sentence. I argued to the judge that he had not taken into consideration the mitigating factors by sentencing him per the guidelines, and that he had to take into consideration all of the factors that we had argued in our sentencing memo, which were quite extraordinary in my opinion. And we got the judge to come down from a year and a day to 6 months, which means that he will serve.
Yeah, with the First Step Act, could be 4 or 5 months in custody. If he goes to the halfway house, it could be lower. I want to address that the judge opened up essentially by stating because of the loss amount and the type of crime, this tax crime, he feels a custodial sentence is warranted. He mentioned that with an embezzling type case, it's easier to ferret out the fraud by way of an audit. Yet it's, I think camouflaging is the word. It's harder to find, therefore more investigative time for this sort of fraud. But it was clear from the beginning that prison was going to be a part of the process. And I also want to be transparent, because some of you ask, should you pay back all of the money? Should you make a payment towards restitution? In this case, our client paid all of the money back. It helped, and some of you might be thinking, well, if you didn't pay the money back, maybe it would have been better to have a little longer sentence. In this case, if you have assets and you don't make a payment, they're going to get it, and you're going to get a longer federal prison sentence. And touch about the fine, how huge it could have been.
Yes.
And by value of the advocacy and of accepting responsibility early, it was pretty modest, in my opinion.
Yeah, the probation office recommended a $15,000 fine, which the court imposed, and that's very low considering my client's assets. Had he not paid restitution, the judge could have imposed $1 million fine, $100,000 fine. He could have done whatever he wanted. He also could have imposed community service, but he didn't. My client has already completed 1,000 hours of community service, which I argued that the court hadn't taken into consideration by his tentative ruling. And the court must consider the history and characteristics of the defendant, which was a huge, huge factor in this case. So while it's disappointing that he still has to serve 6 months in custody, it's still extraordinary for a $3 million tax evasion case. That's unheard of.
I presumed, based on the open, he was going to get the year and a day in prison, especially when the judge opened by saying, I view this sort of tax case and the loss amount, especially how long the fraud went on for a long time. I presumed it would be a year and a day. 6 months is a win, and that's how we'll wrap up. 6 months, he'll be home soon. Diane, thank you for contributing to our sentencing video from Santa Ana Court.
Thank you, Justin.